Hello everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. As usual, before we start today's MTPredictor video, we have to have a look at our risk disclaimer. Just to remind you that all examples in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken, they're just shown for illustration and training purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading and investing. This is important, so I'll put it another way. All professional traders know and understand, but more importantly accept, that losses can and will and do unfold. This is important because everyone should understand that there always will be losing trades with any approach to the market. The trick is keeping those losses small, but losses can and will and always do unfold. Right, today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to have a look at this particular sell setup that unfolded on a 3-minute chart of the YM yesterday, as it was a perfect example of one of my favorite MTPredictor trade setups, which is the Holy Grail trade setup. So what is a Holy Grail trade setup? Well, a Holy Grail trade setup is where we have the market start at a higher time frame support and resistance. Now remember, for you guys who have been following us for a while, you'll know that I teach that markets go in cycles. In other words, there's periods when the markets are unclear, and then there's periods when the markets get clearer. This is why I developed my unique isolation approach to Elliott Wave, and that we're only looking to trade or forecast using Elliott Wave when basically the pattern's clear. So how do we decide when the pattern's clear? That's the obvious question. And when do we start the sequence? Well, we start it when we get support and resistance unfolding, or meaningful support and resistance at a higher time frame. Our higher time frame is a time frame between 3 and 5 time frames higher. So on a 3-minute chart, I'll just take that off to show you what it would have been like at the time. Would have been the 15-minute chart. If you're say trading 15-minute Forex, it would be the hourly. If you're trading daily, it would be the weekly. So let's just use trading mode and go back to just after yesterday opened. What we do is go back to previous highs and lows. You see here on the YM there was an obvious high here, so we right mouse click, do decision point. Can you see it on the chart in advance? In other words, it's a leading indicator. It's there waiting for you, ready for you. So if I turn trading mode off, you can see this is exactly what happened. The market went up into this resistance area and backed off. By the way, this is the regular trading hours or the day session only chart. So this is what we're looking for. We're looking for something where the market is behaving itself, in other words, doing exactly what we anticipate. We then come down to the shorter time frame chart. So here's the resistance coming in. Can you see this? The 15-minute resistance at the day's high, nailing the day's high for you nicely. We're then looking for an initial decline down, which will be a wave 1 in Elliott Wave terms. We're then looking for an initial correction, which will be wave 2, and then we're looking for a wave 3 swing to unfold. There it is if I put the major Elliott Wave counts on. So this is a perfect Elliott Wave pattern. So start the sequence at higher time frame resistance. The initial move is wave 1. We're then looking for the wave 2 to subdivide into an ABC. There it is, ABC. That will be a wave 2. After a wave 2, we're then anticipating that the market is going to make a strong wave 3 swing. And just as a PS, this is a great example of why I don't use Elliott Wave to forecast all the time, because after a wave 3 you should get a wave 4, then a decline down to wave 5. That didn't happen because after that point the market then went back into its random phase, and the forecast didn't work. That's why most Elliott Wave software and analysts get confused, because they try to use Elliott Wave all the time. The best thing that I've found, or the best way I've found to use Elliott Wave, is in isolation and only when we get a trade set up, when the pattern's clear. So all we're looking to do is at this point in time, if I go back to here, at this particular point in time, we're just purely and simply looking to take a trade here with an anticipated decline down into the typical wave 3 WPT. If it goes right, then the profit would be approximately 6 times the initial risk, or 6R. If it goes wrong, remember I said at the start that losses can and will and do unfold, then the loss will be kept small. It'll be kept small at 1 risk unit. This is why I like these Holy Grail trade setups, because when they come through as profitable trades, the profits are normally large in relation to the initial risk. That's because we're looking to trade the wave 3. After that, we don't care what the market does. We've had our trade, we've come out. You can basically do whatever you want. Our MTP trend was in agreement here. You can see because it went grey as it was making a reversal at our DP resistance. It then turned red to indicate the large degree trend was down. So at the point in time here it was red. So it gave you an indication that also the trend was down. There was another trade set up early in the day here, but that was a sell setup against a blue MTP uptrend up into that high there. So an absolute perfect example of our MTPredictor Holy Grail trade setup, where what we're looking for, if I put the Elliott Wave Majors on again, we're looking for the start of a sequence, or we start our sequence at higher time frame support and resistance, in this case a DP off the higher time 15-minute chart. We're then looking for an initial decline, that would be wave 1, an ABC correction into a wave 2, with an anticipating a wave 3 swing, and that is normally the longest and strongest in a completed 5-wave sequence. That's why it's one of my favorite trades, because, or my favorite setups, because when the profits come through, they're large, but not just large in dollars, but large in relation to the initial risk. For you guys who are a bit more experienced, you can see that the rally up into this high here was also a 5-wave sequence, so that again gave indication that it was a good high as well. This was the regular trading hours chart, so where we look to trade between 9:30 and 16:15 New York time. If I go to the 24-hour chart, it was also great resistance on that. There's a couple of DP resistance areas, one from this high and one from this high, nailing the high of the day yesterday. And if I go down to the 3-minute chart as well, there's exactly the same setup as we had on the 24-hour chart, where the rally up into this high here was a nice 5-wave sequence, ending right at, in this case, double DP resistance, the high there. Initial decline down to wave 1, initial correction up into wave 2. There's the trade set up into the typical wave 3 WPT for a nice 6-hour profit. So it's nice when the 24-hour chart was giving the identical same setup and the same higher time frame resistance as the regular trading hours or the day session only chart coming together as well. And this is what I keep teaching, is that we don't use MTPredictor as a black box system where we blindly follow all our trade setups. What we're looking to do is we're only looking to do trades when the picture's clear. In other words, when the market's clear, and that will only be about half the time, or slightly less than half the time. So we do not use MTPredictor as a black box system. That's why I don't think black box or mechanical systems work, because the markets go in cycles. Half the time they'll be basically random and the pattern won't be clear. But then suddenly, like this setup here, it almost comes, it's like the fog clearing. Suddenly everything comes clear and you get a perfect picture that then unfolds in a perfect setup for you. That is the best thing to do when trading, is wait till the picture becomes clear. This is why you'll have read in many other different sources that basically you have to have patience and discipline to be a successful trader, and this is a great example of that. You have to have the patience and discipline to wait till the market's clear and you get the ideal setups. So great example of the MTPredictor Holy Grail trade setup there yesterday, unfolding on the 3-minute YM, where the result was a nice 6-hour profit.